Chapter 17, Paradise to Ashes, the Second Coming of Feng Xin. Shi Lian didn't expect Shi Qingshong to suddenly light a fire, and he didn't even have time to stop him before it was too late. The flames were exceedingly bright, and revealed the silhouette of a black-clad man. The man in black had his head hung low against the stone wall at the end of the path. His face was white as a sheet, his black hair a mess, but underneath that unkempt appearance was an expression that shone with determination, and a gaze like burning ice. Although he sat cross-legged without a trace of discomfort, the stench of blood was thick in the air. He was clearly gravely wounded, and was obviously imprisoned here. His "I have nothing to say" was probably him mistaking them for interrogators. Shi Qingshong saw his face and cried, "It's you!" The man didn't seem to expect guests, and was taken aback. He looked as though he wanted to say "it's you" as well, but alas he held back. Shi Lian calmed Roya, who was ready to attack. "So you two know each other?" After crossing so many hurdles and finally finding someone, Shi Qingshong looked relieved. He was about to respond when the man cut in. He said in a tone that left no room for dispute, "No." Shi Qingshong raged at those words and pointed at him with his fan. "Is it so shameful to know me? What hurtful words! Mingxiong, I'm your best friend!" The man denied it resolutely. "I have no friends who would run around in that sort of attire." Shi Qingshong was still in his tattered purple silk dress. Truly a shameful sight. Shi Lian wanted to laugh at the thought that there were really people in the world who would claim to be someone's best friend to validate themselves. It was definitely Shi Qingshong's style. But Mingxiong, if he remembered the 5 elemental masters correctly, the Earth Master's name was Ming Yi. Shi Lian spoke up. "Are you perhaps the Lord Earth Master?" "It's him. You've met him before," Shi Qingshong replied. Shi Lian looked at Ming Yi over and wondered, "Have we?" He didn't recall ever meeting such a character. "You have," Shi Qingshong confirmed. "We have not," Ming Yi asserted. "Yes, you have," Shi Qingshong said exasperatedly. "Before, at Banyue Pass. You guys didn't forget that fast, did you?" Seeing Ming Yi's face go from ghastly pale to ashen grim, Shi Lian was finally remembered. When they first met at Banyue Pass, wasn't there a black-clad lady with Shi Qingshong? Hua Cheng had told him at the time that the black-clad person wasn't the Water Master, but was surely one of the 5 elemental masters. As expected, Shi Qingshong was not only passionate about transforming into his own female form, he was also passionate about dragging others into doing the same. No wonder the black-clad lady looked extremely pissed off at the time, like she was disgusted. Recalling how Shi Qingshong tried to wheedle him into joining into the fun, Shi Lian realized that it had truly been a close call and was glad he didn't give in. "Lord Earthmaster, are you the one who sent forth the ascending fire dragon?" Shi Lian asked. "I was," Ming Yi answered. They had found the right person. Shi Lian nodded and said, "Lord Earthmaster is probably seriously wounded. We'd best make our escape now and talk later." Without any prompting, Shi Qingshong knelt down and lifted Ming Yi onto his back. "Then let's get out of here." The 3 retraced their steps, and Shi Qingshong talked as he walked. "I have to ask, Mingxiong, aren't you good at fighting? You were perfectly fine back at Banyue Pass, so how did you get beaten up this bad in a matter of days? How did you piss off that Crimson Rainstop flower?" There was a bit of schadenfreude in his tone. Shi Lian mentally noted, "He's speaking as though he isn't afraid of being punched. They are good friends indeed." Ming Yi looked like he'd had enough of listening to Shi Qingshong talk, and he spat, "Shut up!" But that was also a question Shi Lian wanted the answer to, so he adjusted his wording. "Lord Earthmaster, why would Hua Cheng give you trouble?" Ming Yi didn't tell him to shut up, but he didn't answer either. Shi Lian turned his head to look at him and saw he had his eyes closed. After days of imprisonment and interrogation and being so badly wounded, Ming Yi must have felt so relieved by their sudden rescue that he could finally relax. His questions weren't urgent anyway, so Shi Lian didn't try to wake him. The 3 ran up the stairs, and Shi Lian fished out his dice and rolled once more. He didn't know what number he rolled out in the dark, only that before them, he heard a soft clack. A crack peeked open, and light seeped through. Shi Lian pushed at the door and was just wondering whether he'd have the chance to take Lang Ying away too, when, unexpectedly, the first step he took was hollow. The moment he felt himself fall forward, he cried, "Don't come out!" Shi Lian somersaulted through the air and fell on something hard. He felt brief relief that it wasn't a bladed mountain or a sea of fire that he'd fallen into, until he looked up and realized that a bladed mountain or a sea of fire might have been better. Hua Cheng's exceptionally handsome face was only inches away from his brows raised high, and his gaze locked on him. When the stone door opened this time, it dumped him directly on top of Hua Cheng. He'd fallen into the armory. At the moment, Hua Cheng was sitting on the grand chair of the armory, composedly wiping the scimitar emming. Even when someone suddenly fell into his lap from above, he'd only moved his hands away and stopped cleaning without any air of surprise. He gazed calmly at Shilian, as if waiting for an explanation. Of course, Shilian had none and could only lie in his lap and stare back boldly. Suddenly, he saw another person at the periphery of his vision, and when he turned to look, he saw it was Lang Ying. That bandaged boy was sitting on the floor looking terrified. In fact, his hands were clutching at his head while he stared at the two of them. Why was Lang Ying here too? It looked like Hua Cheng was interrogating him. But when Shi Lian peered upwards, he saw half of Shi Qingshang's white boot stepping over the void. There wasn't time to think, and Shi Lian quickly gripped Hua Cheng's shoulders. "I'm sorry!" Shi Lian cried, then tackled Hua Cheng. This tackle shoved Hua Cheng a few meters away, and he even tumbled a couple of times before he found his footing. By then, Shi Qingshang, with Ming Yi on his back, had already jumped and landed with ease in the same spot Hua Cheng had been sitting. Shi Lian forced himself to look back, and Hua Cheng was still looking at him without a word, but with one quirked brow, now arched even higher. Shi Lian leapt to his feet and backed off a few feet, apologizing as he did so. I'm sorry! Lang Ying stared at Hua Cheng, seeming extremely frightened, and rushed towards Shi Lian to hide behind him. Shi Lian shielded him and said, "Sanlang, allow me to explain." I'm waiting," Hua Cheng responded. "Wait, shouldn't it be the opposite?" Shi Qingshang spoke up. "He should be the one who owes you an explanation. He's the one responsible for the missing heavenly official. Be wary, Your Highness." This was exactly the situation Shi Lian didn't want to face. He looked at Hua Cheng intently. "Sanlang, I don't know what misunderstanding occurred between you and Lord Earthmaster, but why don't we talk this out peacefully?" The best case scenario would be Hua Cheng letting them go without harm. Although the Earthmaster was wounded, his life was not in danger, and he wasn't missing any limbs. If he dropped the matter, this wouldn't need to escalate. If Hua Cheng let them leave, then when they reported back to the heavens, Shi Lian would do anything to beg Junwu for mercy, heedless of his own honor. Unexpectedly, however, Hua Cheng asked, "Earthmaster? What Earthmaster?" After a pause, he continued, "Oh, did you mean the man on Windmaster's back? He's nothing more than an inept subordinate of mine." Both Shi Lian and Shi Qingshang were taken aback at this. "He's obviously one of the heavenly officials. How dare you say otherwise?" Shi Qingshang objected. Hua Cheng laughed. "Then I wonder why your honorable heavenly official would conceal his identity, leave behind his respectable title, and come work as an officer under me?" Hua Cheng drew out his scimitar in a silvery crescent moon flash that followed Emming's curve. If that is genuinely the Earthmaster, then what commendable patience to put on an act for 10 years. In the past decade, I had thought him suspicious from time to time, but there was never any proof. If I hadn't spotted him traveling alongside the Windmaster in Banyue, I'd still be in doubt. In a split second, Shi Lian understood everything. So that was what happened. As it turned out, the reason the Earthmaster had gone missing and imprisoned was ultimately because he had gone undercover and concealed his true identity for a decade to serve as a ghost officer under Hua Cheng. To be blunt, he was a spy. Once in a while, Hua Cheng would think his subordinate's actions were suspect, but without concrete evidence, he'd just keep him under observation, and it was only recently that Hua Cheng uncovered the Earthmaster's deception. During their journey to Banyue Pass, Hua Cheng had seen the Earthmaster next to the Windmaster. Even disguised as a woman, with thanks to the Windmaster, Hua Cheng still saw through that fake skin. He discovered the black-clad lady was the ghost officer he suspected, and locked onto his identity as one of the 5 elemental masters. After the Banyue case was over, Hua Cheng probably left Puchi Shrine to settle his score with the Earthmaster. It may have been during that deadly pursuit and dire circumstances that Ming Yi set off the distress signal. Then Junwu summoned Shi Lian and gave him the mission to launch this rescue. That a heavenly official failed to mind his duties and instead went undercover in the ghost realm for over a decade was quite the scandal. Never mind the politics behind it. If Ming Yi was to remain imprisoned and tortured, all heaven would break loose if he actually died at Hua Cheng's hands. The world would be gripped by absolute chaos. If that day came, no one would be spared. After thinking all this through, Shi Lian could only say, I understand the fall is ours, but Sunlung, I hope you will let us go this time around." Hua Cheng watched him intently. Then after a moment he said quietly, "Your Highness, some things are best not to get involved in overmuch." Suddenly, Shi Qingshong cried from the side, "Wind, come to me!" The moment the fan came out, the walls and shelves began to rattle, humming and moaning. "Lord Windmaster, we haven't done anything yet!" Shi Lian was bewildered. "I don't think either of you are going to make a move first," Shi Qingshong said. "So I'll be the bad guy. Wind, come to me!" There was an enormous cracking sound, and Shi Lian could feel clumps of dust falling from above his head. He looked up and saw that one side of the roof was being raised by the gusts, breaking at the seams and forming a large fissure. The armory had no windows or other visible exits. Shi Qingshong's intention was not to fight, but rather to escape through a crack in the roof. Within the crazed gale, Hua Cheng's raven-black hair and maple-red clothes whipped wildly, but the man himself remained utterly unmoved. He smirked. "You have a fan, and coincidentally so do I." Hua Cheng retrieved a fan from one of the armory shelves. It was small and intricate, its spine and leaf made of pure gold, serene and beautiful. Hua Cheng twirled it in his hand, then snapped it open. He grinned wordlessly, elegance suffusing his murderous aura. He flipped his hand and fanned, and a strong gust shot toward them with a blinding silver flash. The three dodged and heard behind them the sound of hail-like darts battering the wall and ground. When they turned their head to look, row upon row of long strips of golden foil were nailed into the ground. Each piece was thin, but deeply embedded, its sharpness and viciousness clear. Every weapon inside this armory was a spiritual one, and anyone he grabbed at random possessed equally murderous power. Hua Cheng flipped his hand again, and another golden foil gust blew. The wind called forth by Shi Qingshong were strong, but the stronger they were, the more dangerous the situation became. The armory was only a hall, and its space was limited. The winds raised by the Windmaster's fan would rebound, and the interior would rebound around the interior and blow the golden foil, whirling them around, dancing in this madness. I have an illustration.